Hello, everybody. My name is Leah. I'm the administrative assistant here at Africa Fire Mission. I just want to welcome everybody to our training today. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to join us and to participate in the training. I just invite you all to not only take what you learn here and learn it and absorb that for yourself, but also to invite any of your friends in the fire service or those in your community that are interested in learning about the fire service. These trainings are just amazing for so many different types of people. Don't have to be firefighters. Of course, we're geared towards firefighters, but everyone is more than welcome to join and to come and learn. So we just invite you to share the registration link that you use to join today's training with anyone else that you would think would enjoy it. I also want to remind everybody that these trainings are recorded and then posted onto our YouTube channel later. And so if you ever want to go back and view a training that maybe you missed or just to refresh your knowledge on a topic that you really enjoyed, we do have those trainings posted, so you can always go back, find it, watch it, refresh, or also share those videos with the people that you think might be interested. And we also are going to be giving out certificates today. We're going to be giving out certificates if you attend at least 70% of the training. So this is an hour-long training, so it's usually about 45 minutes. Roughly, if you attend the 45 minutes, then you'll be getting a certificate later today. And I think that's all from me. My little spiel is over, so I'm going to hand it over to our fire safety advocate, Jose, and he has just a word of encouragement for you all.
Thank you, Leah, for turning in the mic to me. And thank you so much, Sir Mark, for turning up today. We truly appreciate. And you, everyone who's come through for us. You know, without you, guess what? There's no online session. So we truly appreciate you. And for that, I'm just, the word of encouragement today, you just allow me, I will read from the book of 2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 15. It says, do your best to present yourself to God as one approved, a worker who has no need to be ashamed, rightly handling the word of truth. Yeah. So over here, I just needed to mention the word approval. Yeah. God approves you. And he says, do your best to present yourself to him, that is God. Yeah. A worker who has no need to be ashamed. And in the fire service, for you not to be ashamed, you need to be approved. So how do you get approval? One of the ways that you need to get approval is, number one, continuously training. Number two, and by you training, you're learning. Yeah, you're learning things that you already know. It's like a refresher. What you're doing now, you're seeking approval. Yeah, but also I want us to lean on fire advocacy. Yeah, not only on fire prevention, but on everything else, to our leaders and everything else. As you well know, is that in the fire service, we are really not funded well. We are actually underfunded. Yeah. So how can we tell the management that we really need funds or we need to be given cash so that we can get to serve the community? Number one, we need to show them that we are attending trainings like this one. Number two, you're constantly giving them reports that you're going out there into schools, into communities and training them. Yeah. That's the aspect of training. Of seeking approval. So you need actually why we actually need to continue advocating within ourselves, of course, is to increase awareness and change in people's mindset. Remember here in Kenya, especially when we're going to respond to fires in Mathare, we get stoned, we get ridiculed, we get just all these bad things. When you get on the ground before the fire comes, you tell guys, hey, we don't come late because of X, Y, and Z. One of the X's is you need to have the fire brigade number. The Y can be, the fire is too big, so the fire truck needs to refill after every 10 or 15 minutes. So when you do the community engagement, you get to actually get approval from the community, and then you can use that as a tool to actually advocate for better funding in your local government or your bosses. Thank you. I wish you all the best in the advocacy this week, because Wednesday is the beginning of our week, and we hope that your county is going to shine just like every other counties. Thank you very much. Back to you, Leah. Tell us what's the next step from here.
Thank you so much, Jose, and thank you so much for just speaking a little bit on how to advocate for yourself well. And yes, as Jose also mentioned, thank you so much, everybody, for showing up, but also thank you so much, Mark, who is our presenter today. If you remember last week, he came and presented on having pride in the fire service, and everyone just really loved that presentation so much, and it was so amazing, but we didn't have time to finish it. And so he's actually coming back this week and going to be doing a little part 2, finishing up that presentation. And so I want to hand it off to you, Mark. Thank you so much for coming, and we're so happy to have you here. Take it away and finish off that part 2.
All right, thanks everybody. Welcome again this morning or your afternoon to our time today together. It is a privilege to be here with you guys again on this Wednesday day here to finish up our topic from last week. If you remember, for those who were joining us last Wednesday, we were looking at the topic of pride in the fire service, and I was using a presentation called the 21st Century Firefighter that my friend Matt and I had kind of put together. And this presentation was geared towards 2 types of people: the new person coming into the fire service, as well as the senior firefighter already working within the fire department, who is able to help out and lend into that pride factor of the fire service that we want to embody and want to exhibit. So we're going to pick up with part 2 of our presentation from last week, and I'm going to finish off where we left off, which was an acronym that we were kind of spelling out called SPONGE, the word sponge, S-P-O-N-G-E. And we're kind of breaking it down with each letter and looking at different aspects of the pride factor as it relates to being a sponge, absorbing. As a sponge does with water, we are absorbing in some ways from the outside in, and also we're trying to send things out as far as our pride, our actions, our character, so others can absorb from us. And by doing so, they're going to be a sponge themselves, in contrast to the fire service there. So let's get my screen shared here for you. And here we go. I'm just going to put, no. Okay. And we'll get this. Okay. Hopefully you can all see my screen. And we finished off last week with that acronym SPONGE with the letter E. And this was actually the last slide of that letter E before we had to cut our time short because of the hour had come to fruition there. So with the last E here, the embodying the job, this slide here is referring to what stakeholders expect from us. What's a stakeholder? A stakeholder is any person with a vested interest in what we do, both as a person needing our help, as well as us who are coming to help. So everybody's a stakeholder within the fire service, but more so we're looking at here the constituent, the individual or people who are calling us to come and help them. They are the big stakeholder because that's who we're here for. And that's the primary purpose of why we are on a truck, going to a call, or in a station waiting for calls of help to come in. And so they have expectations. The public, the people we serve, the communities, our villages, where you live and work, they have an expectation of what is going to occur when they make that call for help. And that's why I have that first bullet point there about what is their expectations. And we have to understand, as a firefighter, we know, you know, and I know what an emergency is. When someone calls for help, we have our perspective of what that help will look like. So for example, if we could have, I guess our wish come true, and it might be we get to go and fight a big fire, right? That's fun for us in terms of taking part in our actions and our duties. So going and fight a fire, that for you and for me might be an emergency, but for the lay person, the general public, to them, that definition might be different. They may look at emergency as something like my cat's in the tree and I can't get it out, or can't get the cat down, or I have a water leak in my home and I need help with it. And so they call us to come and help them, or they're not feeling well, right? So the public's perspective rather of what an emergency is will differ from person to person, because essentially they're going to define it based on what they need help for and with. And because of that, they're going to make that call to come to us to come and help them out in their time of need. So we have to kind of have a bit of a compassionate side of us to kind of understand that when they make that call for help, even though we may think it's ridiculous, it's silly, it's not really an emergency by true definition, to that person it is. And so we're coming to help them. And when we do come and help them, as I have written down there, we come to help regardless of what the problem is. That's what we are viewed upon in the entire world. It is pretty amazing that right now I'm in North America, you're down in Africa. We're separated by thousands upon thousands of miles apart. But yet the basic perspective of the general public, of the fire service or the firefighter is that when someone calls for help, we are going to come regardless of the problem. And those same problems exist on different continents around the world, right? We have our fires, we have our car accidents, we have people who are not going to feel well, we're going to have buildings collapse, we're going to have the same similar issues that are going to occur right here in Michigan, where I am, right down where you folks are in Africa and different parts of the country, within your small collective areas and so on. And so that public perspective is the same. And when they make that call, I'm not sure how they call for help down where you are, but where I am, they call one number on our phone. It's 911. And when they call that 911 number, no matter what it is, the problem, we're going to come and we're going to give them help. So because of that perception, what do we need to do as far as that exhibiting the pride of our job? Well, as I've spelt out there, we need to be prepared to assist with those problems and be competent. So as Jose was referring to in his opening remarks with his word of encouragement, we need to be trained. We need to continue our training to better ourselves so we are competent. When that call comes in, we're able to go and help to get that cat down from the tree. We're able to go and help and stop that water leak. We're able to go and help and take care of the car accident or put the fire out and so on, depending upon what that call might be. Now, you may be laughing right now where you are about getting a cat down from a tree. And that's usually, a misconception or myth that that's what firefighters do. But oddly enough, it does happen. And I can testify that I have done this in my 23 years so far. I've actually had to do it 3 times to go and get a cat down from a tree, because the person who owned that animal, that was their beloved animal, and that cat somehow got up in that tree and they couldn't get the cat down. So they called us and we came with our big bucket truck and had to go up and bring that cat down. So it may sound silly and kind of comical, but that's what I'm referring to as far as the stakeholders' expectations. They want us to come and help. We need to also be proficient, right? Proficient kind of ties in with being competent, but it also, proficient means that we know what we're doing and we're going to do it with effectiveness, which kind of ties into the next point about being efficient. Right? Proficient and efficient kind of tie together, that we are being proactive. I know what to do when the time comes because I'm prepared for it, I'm competent. And when the time does come, I'm going to perform those action steps efficiently so that I'm not wasting my time or not wasting my actions that I'm doing to get the same end result, right? But lastly and most important for all of us to remember, that is, we still need to be professional when we're doing our job. And again, I'll admit, there's times that I get a call for help. You know, we get dispatched out in the station to go help somebody, and the nature of the call we're being dispatched out for doesn't really, for me, jive as an emergency. I think it's silly. And so I have to sometimes readjust my thinking on the way to the call to say, okay, this person needs our help. So when I do arrive at their address, at their home, or at their place of business, I am acting in a very professional manner to them, regardless of what the problem is. And that's all part of embodying the job, as far as being a sponge and absorbing, as well as hopefully others will absorb from us what we are portraying or protruding out to them by doing our job with that pride showing through with what we do. All right, let's get into, we're finished that acronym SPONGE. That was the last letter. I want to finish off in terms of with the new person kind of coming into the fire service, what they should be expecting. And we have this titled as the realities of firefighting. And that's one thing that, again, my good friend Matt and I have witnessed and observed, is that a lot of people come into this job not knowing the realities of what this job is. And they should, because it's going to help them be better equipped, prepared to face this job, as well as help them to take that pride in what they're doing when they are actually performing the duties of this job here. So the first reality that we have is it's not as seen on television. I'm sure you guys down there have TVs and access to programs, whether it's by the internet or other means that you may join and watch. I can think of one, for example, Chicago Fire is a popular TV show that's produced here in the U.S. It's based out of Chicago, and it's a bit of a drama series based of a fire department or firehouse in Chicago and all that fun stuff. As much as that TV show looks exciting, and it's designed and produced to look exciting, because if it wasn't, you wouldn't be watching it. And so the public, they watch those TV programs, and individuals who say, yeah, I want to be a firefighter, they expect that what happens on television is what's going to happen in real life. And unfortunately, that's not the case. There is a disconnect between what is portrayed on television and what takes place in real life. And so one of the realities that we have to face, and hopefully new people coming in, is that we have to realize that what I've seen on TV is entertainment. And I'm going into a profession that has a lot of realities. And the realities are not what's produced on television. They have different outcomes. It's not always happy and cheery outcomes. They are sometimes disastrous. There's sad outcomes. As we'll see in a few moments, we're going to see the ugliness of life, which is a reality of what our job is. So here it is here. We are going to see death, right? That's unfortunately part of our job, is that we are going to encounter and we're going to come across death. We're going to feel it. We're going to see it, and we're going to smell it, right? Death has a smell to it as well. And the unfortunate thing about death is that it has a lot of different attributes that we are going to observe and be a part of. So for example, when I go for a medical response, so if I got called out, or I can say I did get called out 2 weeks ago for a cardiac arrest, someone who's not, their heart stopped beating, and we had to go to their home and help deal with that. In that home or in that apartment that we were in, there was a lot of family members. And sure enough, as we were trying to help the gentleman on the floor by doing CPR and bring our defibrillator in and our medical equipment to try and help this individual, there's 6 of us that are trying to work on this one individual. And as we're working away, all we can hear in the background is the family wailing and crying, because they can see what's happening. And then when we have to, when we're done, because unfortunately he did pass away. So unfortunately we had to communicate to the family that we're sorry, but however, in this case, your brother and uncle has passed away. He's deceased. And when that news came to them, there was a lot more crying, a lot more wailing. So we're going to see it, we're going to hear it, we're going to smell it. And it's not like on TV where people die in a very glorious or very, peaceful or very, how you want to say it, a very entertaining fashion. It's the opposite. And it is the ugly side of our job that we have to deal with. And so we need to be mindful of the fact that people do die. It's an everyday fact of our life. We're born, and as soon as we're born, the countdown clock begins to our time of death. That may be who knows when. It may be a long time off. It may be a short time, and who knows when that time might be, but that countdown clock does begin. And so we're going to encounter that. And so we need to make sure, or rather be sure that we're able to deal with that. And we're very much aware of the fact that we're going to come across and deal with death on every level and scale that is in the world today. On the other hand, we have to also realize that firefighters also die. Not referring to natural ways, but also referring to our job. Firefighters do die, unfortunately, in the line of duty. So as we're on duty and we respond to calls, depending upon what kind of call we're responding to, that call in that disaster that we're going to may claim the life of a firefighter. And if you look at the right column of my slide here, I'm kind of listing off a summary of the categories of where firefighters fall into for line of duty deaths. So this is based on US statistics from 2018, and almost half of the number of firefighters who die from sudden cardiac death. But that means that they're working hard on the job at a scene somewhere, and because that increased heart rate, the stress put upon them, combined with other factors like their physical well-being, their health conditions, it all comes together, and they had a sudden cardiac arrest, and they died there on the fire ground. That's almost half. The other ones kind of list off there as far as like trauma that we experience, things falling on us, for example, say a building collapse falling on us, or we're falling into a building or getting hit by another vehicle. That's considered trauma. And then later on, you see the small numbers, burns, stroke, and so on. So the majority of what we are going to experience as far as what may claim our lives is going to be either a cardiac arrest from our physical exertion, or it's going to be from us succumbing to something hitting us, something falling or crushing or pinning us in terms of what we're dealing with. We unfortunately are going to encounter this because we're being called to help somebody or some people who may be trapped in a building or who may be in a car accident, and we have to put ourselves in that position to help them, at the same time exposing us to the dangers of what this job entails. So the reality of firefighting is that the public, people, they die, we're going to encounter it. And secondly, as firefighters, there's also a good chance, or a chance rather, that we too also die in the line of duty. So that's why it's a sacrifice, right? When we go and take on this job, it is a sacrifice that we're making to the public. And that's why it's called the public service, because we are serving them in that capacity. Another reality is cancer. Kind of ties into the death factor, but we do contract cancer from what we do on our job, right? We, again, as I mentioned, we respond to calls. We are exposed to different elements of what fire is, whether it's chemicals or black smoke from a fire from a building. Regardless, all of that stuff is toxic to our well-being, and it over the term of number of years, it will produce, unfortunately, cancer in us. And I know in North America, because it does a lot of focus on studying cancer rates in firefighters in North America, it's a very high rate that we are going to contract. And so I kind of list off here just some stats that I was able to gather up from back in 2017 from some different research sites. And with our job, we are 9% higher risk of contracting than the general public, which is unfortunate. And we are 14% higher risk of dying from cancer than the general public. So we are really exposing ourselves to the ugly elements of what this job entails in terms of our health. And I listed off on the right what kind of cancers that firefighters commonly contract. And you can see there, they've got, as I got written down, testicular cancer, skin cancer, brain cancer, colon cancer, esophageal, that's throat cancer, very, very high risk. And unfortunately, when we're exposed to smoke in a building fire or a car fire, even though we may be wearing our SCBA, which protects our lungs from breathing in all that garbage, we still absorb it in our skin. And that absorption is what lends into us contracting cancer. Another reality of firefighting is PTSD. What is that? That's just a big fancy acronym referring to post-traumatic stress syndrome. And it impacts everybody. And as a firefighter, because we see the ugly side of this job, which is death, carnage, trauma, we hear, we see and smell different sights that are not privy to the general public. It will and can over time have an impact on a person, on us. And it may have an emotional impact where it may cause us to start going off the path of good and going down a road of bad, right? Becoming maybe addicted to alcohol or recreational drugs or gambling, or other things that we may call a vice to help us cope with what we've dealt with or have been seeing or dealing with for the last 5, 10, or 15 years. And PTSD is a far-reaching effect on not just myself or yourself or us individually, it's also affecting others around us, our family members, the general public, coworkers, because sometimes they may snap at them. We may be having odd behavior. So there is this reality that we can suffer from PTSD. And if we do, it's going to have a negative impact, which is going to then remove and start to erode the pride factor of what we're trying to exhibit within our own job to the public there. Another reality, fatigue factor. We're going to get tired. This job is a very physically demanding job, and we're going to sustain and suffer from fatigue, being tired. And sometimes that fatigue factor is acute, meaning it's short term, it's immediate, right then and there. So you see my friend Eric there, he's taking a bit of a break on a very hot summer day after at a house fire. And so his fatigue factor is acute, it's right away, it's immediate. So he can feel the effects of being beaten down physically to, you're very exhausted, as well as there's the long-term effects of fatigue. Over the span of 5 to 10, 15, 20 years, you're going to feel that fatigue setting into your body. I know for myself, again, doing it for 23 years so far, I'm not that old, but I'm getting into the, close to being 50. I'm feeling that myself. I'm feeling that fatigue factor in my body. And it doesn't happen at 8 o'clock in the morning. It happens more so at 10 o'clock at night or 1 o'clock in the morning. That's when I really feel it, because I'm tired of getting up at 1 o'clock in the morning from a dead sleep and going to respond to somebody for their help. So we're going to have to experience this, and which is why it's important for us to deal with the fatigue factor as far as keeping ourselves in some kind of mental state of preparation, being mentally fit, being emotionally fit for the job, with being in a good place with our family, with our homes, with your own personal lives, as well as physically fit, keeping some regiment of physical fitness to help keep your body in that shape to encounter and to endure those fatigue factors that we're going to experience on the job as the days and weeks and months and years transgress and pass on by us. Another reality of firefighting is that our job is physically demanding, as I mentioned with the fatigue, but also demanding on our bodies. And we are going to have some degradation. We're going to see our bodies starting to erode away over time because of what we're doing. Just think of a simple action like getting on and getting off of the truck, right? So the fire truck is, a little high off the ground. Getting in and getting down day in, day out, depends how you get in, how you get out the truck. Some people like to jump out, some maybe step down, but that action of getting up, getting down takes a toll on your knees. And after a number of years, you'll start to realize, why are my knees so sore? Because one part might be getting up and getting down from the fire truck, for example, right? There's other parts of our job that we do that also lend into the body breaking down. So we have to be aware of that as we do this job, we are going to face a reality that we're going to be degrading our body quicker than, say, somebody sitting at a desk somewhere as an administrator doing nothing but pushing papers. They will not have that same physical breakdown of their bodies as, say, what we are going to experience being a firefighter on the front lines. This is actually an MRI, that picture there, and it's showing you a ruptured disc. If you look in the bottom towards the lower part of the spine, in the S series of the spine there, you'll see a black protruding object into the spinal cord. That's actually an MRI of me back in 2000 and I think 2002 or 2003, because of the job that we're doing firefighting, I got a ruptured disc. And so that's one of the realities of firefighting is we're going to get hurt, and it's going to have a toll on our bodies. I kind of mentioned with the PTSD thing about you could be going down a bad road. And this slide here about the realities of firefighting is referring to addictions. And the unfortunate thing about what we do and see and experience does cause some people to form an addiction. That might be to, as I mentioned, alcohol, drugs, gambling. It could be a sexual addiction. You name it. Anything that's going to have a hold on us, that's a vice, becomes an addiction. And those addictions will most times steer us off the wrong path, into the wrong direction. Off the right path into the wrong direction. And so we need to hopefully be aware of it, that this can happen, and it does happen, that we know where to go to get help when it does occur. Because the last thing we want to have is to have those addictions, or that addiction, take control of our life or your life and drive you rather into the ground. And basically, for some people, they do commit suicide. That's one of the side effects of PTSD, is suicide, people killing themselves. There's a high rate in this continent, North America, of firefighters, police officers, and paramedics committing suicide because of PTSD, and with that addictions that they can't get rid of. They can't shake the addiction, and over time it just takes over and beats them down to they have no hope, and they just figured the best way to end it all is to to kill themselves by committing suicide, and that's that. And that's not the solution, right? Suicide is not the solution. It actually makes things worse. What I've always told people who I talk about this with is that the individual may think it's the solution, but it's the family, it's the friends who are affected for life because of the actions of that person committing suicide. And that effect on them can be detrimental to them as well. It can make them depressed. It can make them always question why couldn't I have done more to help them out, and so on. So If we do find ourselves, or if you do see people that you work with who are exhibiting the bad nature of the job, as far as unruly behavior, snapping all the time, not sleeping well, but they may have an addiction as far as alcoholism or drugs and so on, they get them help, because if they don't get that help, they're not going to be useful to the fire service. And that pride of being a firefighter is erased from what they are held prisoner to with this particular addiction. Another reality of firefighting is it involves or requires critical thinking by the individuals, by all of us, by each firefighter. We have to be thinking, we have to be thinkers. So we can't just be sheep and follow. We have to be able to think, observe, watch, process information, and act on what's best based on what I'm thinking or critically analyzing. There are some firefighters who are just that, they're sheep, and they will come to work or come to the fire hall and they'll just follow what somebody else is leading. They'll follow the leader, not thinking about, is it good? Is it bad? Is it the best? Could be done better? They just follow. And that's not just with actions, it's also with maybe what's being said as far as thoughts, opinions, and so on. And it's good to have opinions. It's good to have thoughts. I'm giving you my opinion today, but I would hope that you would take what I'm saying and you would decipher what is best for you, right? So that's that bottom bullet point there is referring to decipher what is best, right? So up where I live and where I am, we have some, big name firefighters. Alan Brunstein is a fire chief, or he was a fire chief in Phoenix. He's now deceased. John Salka Jr., that's in the picture, the man there in the tie, that's John Salka Jr. Mike Champo from another big city. These are big names. And a lot of people like to take what they say as God without thinking about it. And so if John in the picture said, hey, we should all start using pink fire hoses, there's some people who would just say, yeah, that's a good idea. We should do it, without thinking about, is it best for us to do that? And so a critical thinker is one who will listen, they will read, they will look at it, they will process the information, and then they will analyze and decide for themselves, is that what's best for me or for the department, or is it not good? Or I can take a little bit of here and here, like take that nugget and take this part of it, and that's what's best for us. The rest is not good for us. That's a critical thinker. And so we have to be critical thinkers, and by critically thinking, we're going to do well. We'll be proficient with our job and efficient with our actions as well. The guy shaking John's hand. So John is the man in the suit and tie. That's John Salka Jr. I've written a lot of books. The individual shaking his hand, that's my friend Matt. So we were at a conference down at that, I think I was in Nashville, Tennessee, and we were actually teaching there, Matt and myself. And so Matt wanted to meet John and get John to sign autograph his book, which is what he was doing for Matt at that point. So I got a quick picture of that moment for Matt there. Let's look at a few laws that are going to help us to be with that pride factor with doing our job in the fire service. Okay, the one law is the law of influence. That means that what I do can have an impact on people around me. I can influence other people, and vice versa, they can influence me. I want to be around positive people, not negative. And I myself need to be a positive person for others as well. If I'm always coming into the fire hall as a negative individual, negative attitude, negative outlook on life, it's going to have an impact on other people with them also being negative as well, right? So the law of influence is how I act and how I am is going to influence other people around me, and they also influence upon me as well. So make sure for yourself, when you're looking at good people to hang around with or to be involved with, choose the right group, choose the right person. Because if you want to have a a boring, hard career as a firefighter than be in the negative group. It's going to be a hard job to get through, as opposed to if you want to have a good time as like a good firefighter, a good career as a firefighter, with good outcomes, with happiness, with joy, with fulfillment, then choose the people who are positive, who are going to be good influencers on you, and vice versa with you on them. That's the law of influence. The law of process. We as a firefighter, as I mentioned about being competent in our profession and developing our skill sets and being efficient, does not happen overnight. There is a process that we go through to get us to that point of being a professional. So it is daily growth. We have to, I'm sure today when you guys this morning woke up from your good night's rest, you went and had a bite to eat at some point for breakfast or some kind of meal. You got some nutrition. You have to have that every day to help you grow, to maintain your strength and health. It's the same thing for us with the law process for firefighting. We have to every day have a daily growth factor of ingesting something as far as training, knowledge, some education to help us progress each and every day to be that professional person. And it has to be continual. It's not just I do it for a week or I do it for 6 months and now I'm set for the next 20 years. It is a daily, continual process. And that means that we have to be a man of action. That might not be a good term to use nowadays in our climate politically, but it is a good term as far as being that individual, that man of action is going to go and do things to help develop myself and help that process unfold in terms of my daily growth. The law of solid ground, right? You want to have a good footing to stand upon as far as who you are and who you're hanging around with. And again, in our profession, we have a lot of trust. There's a lot of trust between people. The public trusts us for the most part. Again, I've kind of heard some things about what you may experience down in your end of the world where that trust factor may not be there. People are very leery of the fire service and so on, but we have to make sure we exhibit and we are working in the hopes of gaining their trust. Because when we do gain people's trust, the public's trust, we're then able to help them more. And for ourselves, if we can stand upon a good moral, solid ground as part of our bedrock of what I am and who I am and what I do, that's going to help me to be more effective and be prideful with what I do within that fire service. And so make sure we have those attributes that are going to make us a good moral example within the community as far as who we are for that trust factor. The law of magnetism, as far as who you attract, kind of ties into the second slide before about the law of influence. But who you are is who you attract, right? That's my buddy Tim. He's a joker. We were out one night at a restaurant after teaching at a long day somewhere, and he got to put the moose hat on with the moose antlers, and we're just joking around, right? We're a bunch of jokers. So because we're a bunch of jokers, that's who we attract. We attract people like that who are also want to joke around, have some fun. If you're going to be a negative person, you're going to be a quiet person, you're going to be a naysayer, you're going to attract those same kind of people, right? So there are a few sayings that we have in this part of the world, you know, that we that I'm not going to repeat now, I guess, but we want to make sure we attract the right people, and we are attracted to the right people as well, as far as who we want to hang around with and be associated with as part of our group. All right, so that kind of wraps up the new firefighter. Let's look at, in our remaining 15 minutes here, about the senior guy. The senior firefighter is someone who's been on the job for a long time, right? 10, 15, 20 years, and they've been around for a while. They know what's going on. They know everything about the station, about the trucks, about who they serve as far as their community. They are the senior guy without holding any rank, right? There may be a captain or a lieutenant or a person of rank, but this individual is just below that, but they are there to help out in a great degree. And we'll look at that real quick here as how, in terms of the pride factor in the fire service, what this senior man can do to help with that aspect, right? So they are, as we call it, the sergeant of the crew. You look at military, there's going to be your officers, your colonels, and your majors, and your captains, and your lieutenants. They're the ones up there, you know, with the big flashy stuff, and they're pointing and directing and not really getting their hands dirty. The sergeant is the one who's working with the guys. And so he is getting his hands dirty. He's the one who's leading the crew where they got to go. So he is the guy's guy in that group. And the senior man for the fire service is that sergeant. They're the ones getting their hands dirty. They're working alongside the fellow firefighters, but they've been there long enough that they are able to lead that crew as a sergeant would with a platoon of people in the military setting, right? They are the go-to guy. When I got a question about something myself, I'm going to look for that senior man and go to him and say, hey, do you know this? Because I'm sure he knows. So he's the go-to guy. And even though we have a captain that's assigned to us in the station, the senior man's that buffer between myself and the captain. So instead of bugging the captain, I may go bug and pester the senior man instead and get what I maybe need from that person as opposed to bugging the captain. The senior man is not somebody who is going to be exhibiting his seniority, right? So he's been there a long time. Yes, doesn't give you license to take advantage of that in terms of, in the case where I work, hogging the remote control, right? So you have one TV in the station, and the senior man hogs that remote. So what he wants to watch is what we have to all watch. That's not what that refers to, right? Or getting out of doing things, right? The senior man is not afraid to get himself dirty and is going to want to help and do things as opposed to saying, yeah, that's not my job. You guys do it. I've been here long enough. I'm taking a vacation from doing those duties, right? That's not what this is about. The senior man can be the opposite in terms of being involved. So one aspect is a full tradition. Because you've been there a long time, you're going to know the traditions of your station, of your department, that you can then pass on to the newer ones coming in, which is part of the pride factor. What makes us who we are? It might be that you come to work with your uniform on, pressed and cleaned every time you come to work. That's a tradition that you're going to pass on. And even though it may be a tradition over years, we have to make sure we also explain why it's important for us to keep upholding that tradition as well. We have to be competent, right? Because we are leading junior or other newer members behind us or with us. And so we have to know what we're doing. We have to be competent. This is a picture, you can't really see it too well, but it's a picture I took of a captain at a department who had his face piece and his flash hood, which goes around the ears and neck, he had on backwards. And the picture's proving the point that for a captain who's been there a long time as an officer, he should know how to put that on the right way. So you have to be a competent individual as far as being that senior firefighter. We mentioned this in the first part last week about the new member, about listening and not being quick to speak. It's the same thing for the senior firefighter. We need to also listen and not be so quick to jump in and speak. I do know some senior firefighters I've worked with that think that they have a podium as it is and a microphone to just speak nonstop. What I say is gospel, and you're going to listen to me talk for an hour or two because I'm the senior firefighter. That's not what that is either. Right? You can take time to listen to what others are saying around you, to pick up maybe what's the the underlying tones of the station message, for example, that may that may be useful to you to maybe help fix problems, solve issues, maybe to let the captain know or let the lieutenant know, hey, you know, be aware of this. This might be a potential issue for the station. So by listening, we can be effective as well. And doesn't always involve having to chime in and talk nonstop all the time. Okay, as I mentioned, the senior firefighters, when he gets involved, is going to be doing some work, right? So there's our good buddy Bill. He's one of my mentors. He's taking a bit of a break because he's worried. It was a long day at a training session, and he's a guy who does stuff. When you get things done, he's the first one to go do it. Even though he's, you know, in his 60s, he's a guy who will do stuff. He's active, right? So he's not sitting around taking naps all the time and being lazy. He's the one leading by example. And he's getting things, he's being very active in getting things done to help others task as well. Need to show respect for rank, right? As a senior firefighter, yes, I may have been in this job for a long time, and the captain, he's just above me, but I got to show respect for that rank, as well as the deputy chief and the fire chief. By showing that respect, I'm showing by example to others below me that they also have to show respect for rank as part of that tradition. And I'm showing it. I'm not just preaching, hey, you got to make sure you do this and, you know, salute the captain or whatever else. I'm actually doing it. So others see me showing respect for rank, for who I'm dealing with and what I'm coming across. One thing that we like to do is as a senior firefighters, when we come to work to the station, is that we'll announce our arrival. Hey guys, I'm here. Just gonna get changed real quick, and I'll be down in 5 minutes or 10 minutes. Right? I'm letting the crew know that I'm here. I'm not just sneaking into the station and hiding. I announce my arrival when I get to the actual station there. And you know, the picture kind of shows at an airport the showing flights of arriving. It's the same idea. We want to know when people are coming to work. And so that senior firefighter can lead by example and let people know, hey, I'm here. I'll be down. I'm going to go get changed real quick, and I'll come downstairs or come back in 10 minutes and have tea with you guys and before you guys get off duty and go home. Part of our job being a senior firefighter is to elevate others. Right? So we're not going to put them down. We're going to elevate them. We're going to try and empower them to be better at their job. And so that's going to involve us being humble. We have to be humble with what we do. So even though I may be a senior firefighter, been there 23, 25 years, I still have to have a humble spirit to serve others below me. And by doing that, I'm going to help elevate them to be better themselves. That's part of being or showing that pride factor is I'm willing to serve those lesser than me. You're going to hear this again, it's like a broken record, but never stop learning. The senior firefighter has to continue with their daily growth of learning, educating, training, practicing, keeping their skills sharp with what they do each and every day. So here's a good picture of my friend, Captain Mike Langford. And there he is. We're together, him and I, training at a conference, and we are together practicing our skills because we need to keep on learning for ourselves. So never stop learning as the senior man. Okay, we're a little bit of a repeat for a few seconds, but as the senior firefighter, we can influence people by what we do, what we say, how we act and behave. And because other junior firefighters are looking at us and watching us, it's important for us that we influence them in the right way. Right, so be positive. Right, as I mentioned before, I'm not going to keep repeating this too much, but we have to make sure we are that good role model for others to look at and to follow as well. Right, same thing as that senior firefighter. I'm going to attract maybe followers to follow me. I want to attract the right ones because I myself am exhibiting the good traits of being a good firefighter, of a firefighter full of pride with what I do in my job each and every day. So hopefully I'm going to attract the right group to want to follow and be around me to help me, or help them rather, be better at their profession, at their job as well. All right, we are at the end of our presentation, which is just right on time, I think, with 5 minutes to spare with our time together. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I'm going to pass it back to Jose or Leah. And if you have any questions, by all means, let's take our time and ask away if we want, and enjoy the rest of our time together.
Thank you so much, Mark. I truly appreciate the lesson for today. And I'd want us to have questions. If you have questions or any comments, you can kindly just unmute and then shoot your question or your comments to our trainer of the day, Mr. Mark.
Hello.
Hello, what is your question?
Thanks for the good lesson. I'm Kahindi Saul from Mariakani. I would want to ask, can our bodies take toll while we do physical exercises? Because our teacher has just said that by getting on and off our fire trucks may take toll due to some age sometimes.
Yeah, so Mark, how would you counteract the toll that those things take on your body?
Well, how should I say this? There are some things that we cannot avoid, or there's some things that we're not going to be able to lessen in terms of repetitive actions. We have to do them. So for example, the example I use as far as getting in and out of the fire truck, what could be done is maybe, for example, if the truck step is too high off the ground, we can maybe add a step on the truck to lessen the height to climb up, for example. Another solution might be that you make it mandatory that when you're getting off the fire truck, it's got to be with 3 points of contact and coming down backwards. So you're taking your time climbing down as opposed to jumping off the truck, right? That might be another way of doing it as well. So some things we can control. We can kind of look at the problem and say, okay, how can we ergonomically decrease the stress on the firefighter when they're doing this particular action? Sometimes we can't. When you're going into a burning structure or burning house, we can't make that house really safe for us to go in. We're going to have to go in and exhibit some stress on our body physically that is going to be, over time, repetitive, that will have a toll on your body. So there's a bit of a 50-50, I guess, answer here in terms of there's some things we can do, which is going to be look at problems, analyze them, try and figure out a solution to decrease the stress on that firefighter physically. And the other half is we can't avoid it. It's going to happen. Just got to be prepared for it, that as life carries on in 5, 10, 15 years, I'm going to be experiencing bad knees or bad hips or sore shoulders or other things that are going to be the result of consistent physical wear and tear on your body.
Thank you so much for answering that. And thank you, Florence, for asking your question. And I'm sure that there are a couple other questions floating around out there, but I am just going to ask that you hold those for tea time, because our time is sadly up. So we are just going to be transitioning into tea time here shortly. But before we leave, I just want to remind everybody that this is recorded. I'm going to be posting it on our YouTube channel, along with I'll be sending out some certificates later in the day if you attended that 70% of the training. And just to clear up, I got a couple questions throughout the training today, just wondering what to do if you're not in a group, I have your name. So if you're not listening in a group, don't worry about sending me your name. You're all good. And also, it's not too late. If the name that you're logged in with right now is not the name you want on your certificate, all you have to do is change that. Just hover your mouse over your name and it'll give you the option to change it to what you want your name to be on the certificate, because it's going to come up with your username, exactly how it's written. And so with all of that, I want to just pass it over to Jose. And I just want to thank everybody for attending today. And thank you so much, Mark, as well, for presenting and coming 2 weeks in a row. So thank you so much for coming back-to-back weeks and being able to finish up this presentation. It was really amazing. So thank you so much for that. And I'm going to pass it off to Jose now. Bye-bye.